Okay, today is Mishlei 23, Proverbs 23. And I'll tell you what, folks, I was not looking forward to doing this because I'm going to have to talk to you about our inability to look at data, facts, and stats for what they are. Data, facts, and stats. You may not like the truth, but it is the truth. Here's the other part. So data, facts, and stats are what they are. They always are. It doesn't matter what you think about them, what you believe about them, what your God tells you about them. It doesn't matter how your emotions and feelings dictate you should feel about them. They just are. Truth is truth regardless. It is because of our feelings and our belief system, which is the foundation of everything. Remember, it's the iceberg. This is underneath everything. It's the authority of what therefore influences your feelings and even therefore your ability to interpret facts, because you always are interpreting facts. So I'm going to attempt to give you some facts from the word. Adonai Eloheinu Yeshua HaMashiach has some things to say, and I'm going to put in the context of what we get so worked up about in society. And I'm going to choose, unfortunately, these are some hugely controversial topics. And I will attempt to not be too editorializing in the sense of I will not try to be too much Kasandra, but I'm going to have to fill in some gaps and make some connections. And I'm going to try to do it in as much of a research-oriented way to not tell you how to believe. But my goal always with people is I don't have to agree with you. Just admit that that's how you think. Just see the facts I'm seeing and admit that you're choosing to see them a different way. If you know me at all, if you've listened to anything I've done, I'm always about that. You're welcome to believe anything you want to believe, but we can't look at data and deny the facts. So I'm going to start with Mishlei 23:23 because it's an easy thing to remember. You can remember 23:23. Buy truth and do not sell it. Buy wisdom, instruction, and understanding. Kana, to buy, get, acquire, possess, obtain. Gather these seeds for the building of your future. It's important to put your money, your time, your energy, buy, right? Everything about you that's going to cost you to get these things. It's going to cost you to get truth, emet, which is reliability and stability, continuance, divine instruction, true doctrine. It's going to cost you something, from the money you might have to pay professionals, from the time you invest with them, to the time you invest talking to your God about what does it really mean. Buy, kana, get, obtain wisdom, chokmah. Chokmah is about being skilled in war, skilled for battle. We are in a spiritual battle. We are spiritual beings having a finite human experience. We are infinite, eternal beings having a finite, temporal human experience. Because we are spiritual beings, the real world is the spiritual. So you're going to have to be skilled in what that looks like. And there is a battle and a war because the enemy, there is an enemy, there is evil, there is violence. You all know that. You yourself are part of that. As you gossip, as you slander, as you critique, as you lament, as you twist facts and data, and as you outwardly, outrageously, egregiously screw people over. We've all done it. For anybody out there who doesn't think they have absolutely screwed somebody over, you probably need to never listen to anything I say because you are ridiculously clueless and have zero humility, zero. You are 100% given. Your mind, your heart and mind, your lev, your heart mind are 100% given to the enemy. You are 100% evil if you don't think you yourself have ever actually been evil. So, obtain your skills for war. Get, buy, invest your time, energy, money, effort into obtaining the skills for war. Wisdom, chokmah. Buy, get, obtain, put your time, money, talents into getting instruction. Instruction is musar. This is about discipline, correction, understanding and learning that which binds and restricts, learning what it takes to walk the narrow path, learning what it takes to be healthy, happy, and whole. If you've done anything of excellence, anything, if you've done a sport of excellence, an instrument of excellence in terms of musical, if you've done a career of excellence, if you've done a marriage of excellence, you know there are boundaries. There are things that restrict your behaviors and your activities and your words within that area. That is what Musar is, instruction, and therefore there's discipline. There's things you aren't doing that are well. So seek that out. Seek those wise counsel, chokmah, those who are of gray hair. Hopefully they have achieved some of these levels of wisdom. Just because you age doesn't mean you've gained any wisdom. You're just aging. That's a natural scientific process. To gain wisdom is a spiritual process. Gain understanding, binah, comes from a root word, bene, which is to observe, mark, give heed to, consider, distinguish. So it has kind of it's that ability to know what to do with information. I wanted to sit there because so much of what you find across the entire book of Mishlei, remember Mishlei, the root word's mashal, to master that which is attempting to master you. So the book of Proverbs is the book of wisdom, the book of how do you master yourself. It's the book of wisdom, chokmah, skills for living. All throughout that book, it keeps talking about binah and chokmah and emet. It keeps talking about these words, skills for living. So let's dive into some practical skills for living. Mishlei 23, Proverbs 23 spends a lot of time talking about do not be among drunkards, those who drink too much wine, or among gluttonous eaters of meat. For the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them with rags. Proverbs 21 tells us wine is a mocker, strong drink is a brawler. Whoever is led astray by it is not wise. So there are many other passages, if you do a search on sort of drinking, everyone loves to talk about that Jesus turned water into wine in the Bible as if somehow that like validates it. But there's way more. That's just the fact that he's showing you his excellence and his gifting and his blessings and his abundance. That's what that's all about. But we focus on, gee, I get to drink a lot of wine. Jesus never comes out, Yeshua, Adonai Eloheinu Yeshua HaMashiach never comes out and says, do not drink wine as if somehow you're going to go to hell. There's nothing in the word that says that. There is a ton that talks about why a leader, a king, someone in a position of excellence and power and authority, someone who's been granted these, someone who the Lord is directing to be helpful to his children. Many of you want to be in these positions. Many of you believe you already are. He instructs those of us who believe we're already in those positions or we aspire to be in those positions that you should not drink wine. You should not drink alcohol. You should not give into spirits, the enemy, that's some of the languaging, which twists your mind. He talks about that, and I think the word for gluttony is fascinating, zalal. It's about being worthless, not usable, right? Vile, insignificant, shaky, always trembling. So it's a physical reality. When you're drunk, you shake, you're not stable, you wobble. But it's a shaky person. You're not stable. You are the opposite of what truth is, because truth, emet, is about stability and firmness. So imbibing in drugs and alcohol, for those of us who are leaders, aspire to be, are already, have been put in those positions. And anybody who has a child, you're a leader. Anybody who has a spouse, you're a leader. Anybody who has one person that listens to your directives because of work or otherwise, you're a leader. You hang out by yourself as a hermit, nobody notices you anyway, I suppose. But the majority of y'all don't. Many of you are on these social media platforms because you're attempting to influence others in the ways of excellence. Amen. Praise God. I appreciate you. Consider you might be called, as the Lord calls people in those positions, to always be of sober clarity of thought and mind, because you never know when you're going to be called upon. So he goes on to say, and this is fascinating, be not among drunkards, those who drink too much wine are gluttonous, those who are insignificant, those who are worthless, who are vile, who are shaky. He goes on to say, who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife and complaining? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? If you look at some of those words, again, there's a lot of that means those who are given to quarreling and brawling, those who are given to complaining, and who are given toward musings that are full of anxiety and troubles. Who are these types of people? Those, he answers, those who tarry too long over wine, drink spirits, those who try mixed drinks, those who are imbibing in that which alters your mind. Do not look at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly. So he starts Mishlei 23 with looking at what the rich has. And he says, when you sit down to eat with a ruler, observe carefully what is before you and put a knife to your throat if you are given to your appetites, if you're given to your desires. Do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Do not toil to acquire wealth. Be discerning enough to desist. He starts Mishlei 23 and this: be very careful when things look shiny and glittery. All that glitters is not gold. All that glitters is not good. So when you look at that glass of wine and it looks pretty and sparkles in the cup, you know, it just goes down so smoothly. In the end, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder, another venomous snake or venomous animal. Bite and a shock. It bites like a serpent. The word bite is not take a chunk out of you. It requires that you pay in interest. It gives to you, but it gives to you in you have to give back. So it takes more from you and continues to take from you. So listen to this. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart utter perverse things. So the strange things, strange zur, is a foreigner, an enemy, a strange woman, prostitute, harlot, to be alienated, perverse, tapuka. What is upside down? You are going to see life. You're going to see things upside down. You're going to be able to start to see the enemy. You're going to start to see that people are trying to take from you. The prostitutes are trying to take from you. They don't want to love you. They just want to take from you. They're going to say they don't love you. You're going to feel like love, but they're just going to take from you. You will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies at the top of the mast. I mean, you're going to be just woozy and shaky and moving. And you're going to say, they struck me, you will say, but I was not hurt. They beat me, but I didn't feel it. When shall I awake? I must have another drink. The imagery there, all the languaging there is you're going to start to be in this, I'm being beaten and abused. You're going to start to see yourself as shaking and people are hurting you and you're not sure what's going on. And you, earlier on, I talked about this person has bruises, right? So do you have bruises? Do you not have bruises? You're not really sure what's going on, but all of a sudden that drink just looks glittery again. All this is to say some truths, because I feel like I've just been, and I know I have been, for those of you that drink, I'm telling you to consider how do you drink really? I love when I talk to people about how they drink, because instantly they'll start telling me, oh, I don't drink that much. I'm a social drinker. Because I operated in the world of insurance and investments, when you operate in insurance, you have to put people through a medical exam. I cannot tell you the number of people that I had to send alcohol and drug supplements to. Because of course they have one glass of wine a night, right? They have a couple glasses of wine on the weekend. But if the fact that you came back, I had to send you a drug and alcohol supplement, that's an indication you probably have a little bit of a problem. And every single one of those people they always acted so offended, right? Like, I'm not the one who's checking your blood. I don't know. So here's the deal. There is a colossal gap between real data versus perceived threat. Again, we're going to get so caught up. So the thing about this, I want you to start to make the connections. I'm going to start making some connections to you, for you, with you. But we have a tendency, whether it's alcohol or not, we as humans have a tendency to take facts and our minds get perverse for whatever reason. Alcohol, drugs will definitely do that. That we will take real data and we blow it out into these threats. People are beating me. Oh my God, what's going on? I'm shaky. Largely, and this is exactly what the media, the politicians do to us. They use data, that's true, but they use it to be the issue. And so I'll give you an example. There is a politician, a senator that I went to college with. He doesn't remember me. I don't really remember him totally either. But I know of him now because he's famous, right? And he and I are polar opposites in how we think. But I like to listen to him. I like to listen to what people who are polar opposite me think. Because for one, it helps me. And he's on this big, we need to have gun control and get rid of guns and, all these mass shootings. And so, of course, all these mass shootings. So I started doing some research into mass shootings. Like, how real is this? And when you look at the data, when you look at, as of March 22nd, so this year, 2021, 18 people were killed in the US. That sounds like a lot, right? So you're like, holy shoot. if we extract, that's one quarter. I guess, 18 times 4, right? If you look at the whole year, that could be upwards of, 70-ish, maybe 100 people. Who knows if this trend continues? That's a lot of people, it seems, right? Especially if it's your relative, it seems like too many. So here's the deal. So 18 so far. If we, do the math, it could be 70 for the year. Is that real? What's that mean? Again, it's a number. I'm not saying whether it's a good number or a bad number, it's a number. When you look at between 1982 to today, so this is almost 30 years, okay, 40 years, almost 40 years, 1982 today, almost 40 years. And I've heard the number is a little lower than this, but I chose the bigger number. 975 people have been fatally wounded, shot, killed due to mass shootings. That's about 25 a year. In the last 40 years, there have been about 25 deaths on average every year due to mass shootings. Now, again, that's one too many if it's your relative, correct? 25 a year. So hold that number. So now we got to go, okay, wait a minute. Okay, so that's a number. Now let's look at just gun shooting in general. Okay, maybe that's mass killings, but okay, fine. Maybe that's not a huge number, but, there's gun violence. It's insane. We're crazy in the US. Okay, so let's look at that. This year, or actually 2020, as of 2020, more than 41,000 people died in gun violence in 2020. 41,000. That's getting a little more significant, right? How are they dying, right? How are they dying this gun violence? Of the 41,000, upwards of 60%, 23,000 plus died by suicide. What that tells you is, and this has been the running course, what that tells you is a gun owner is more likely to kill him or herself than somebody else. It's pretty freaking pathetic. What that should tell you is, again, I'm making some connections for you, is those who are on the bandwagon for mental health, those who are talking about suicide and who are fighting against it and trying to raise awareness, you are correct. We need to raise awareness about mental illness. I myself have had family members kill themselves exactly this way. On average, there are 40,000 deaths a year since 1981. This is the statistic. Again, the last 40 years, 40,000 deaths due to gun violence. Again, upwards of 60 to 65% of those, again, the numbers vary, are suicide. Suicide. People are killing themselves. Gun owners are killing themselves. Pretty rough. Now, so again, you start to examine that. Like, what's going on? So if you start studying, then back to Mishlei 23, alcohol. When you look at people who are corrupted in their head, if you look at the prisoners, the standard rule of thumb for prisoners, the gateway drug for prisoners, alcohol and drugs. The rapists, the murderers, the arsonists, what are all these names? Robbers, the dregs of society. When you look at who they are, every single one of them, drugs and alcohol, drugs and alcohol, drugs and alcohol. Their minds, the spirits go crazy, and the world turns upside down, and they're given to violence. So now let's look at alcohol, because again, nobody's talking about alcohol. Let's go after let's make sure to take away the guns, because 25 people a year are killed in mass shootings, because the majority of people who die via guns are the owners themselves via suicide. So let's take this away. But let's not talk about alcohol. God forbid we talk about alcohol, but let's examine the stats. Alcohol contributes to about 20% of emergency room visits, and about 22% of overdose deaths are related to prescription opioids, so drugs and alcohol. So upwards of 20% of the emergency room visits, again, this is kind of a running number, are due to alcohol. And then the 22% or 25% are opioid deaths. Again, drugs, prescription drugs, right? An estimated 95,000 people die from alcohol-related cases annually. 100,000 people die of alcohol-related causes annually. Some reports say this is the third leading preventable cause of death in the United States. Other reports call it, again, this is whether you're looking at the CDC or the National Health Institute, and I have all the research here. Or you're looking at there's alcohol, information, drug, there's Crime Stoppers. If you start looking, these are all the research that I've done. And I've done this for years now to see what the trends are, which is probably why I'm coming to you now, or maybe why Mishlei 23 is speaking to me. Sometimes they say that alcohol-related causes are number one, because alcohol contributes to other diseases. So between 2011 and 2015, the leading cause of alcohol attributable deaths from associated diseases, liver disease, heart disease, stroke, cirrhosis, liver disease, aerodigestive tract cancers. So again, it affects your digestive tracts, your ventricular, cardiac. So there's dysrhythmia, breast cancer, hypertension. There's lots of reports talking about the rise of breast cancer in women due to alcohol related. In fact, do I have that information down? I may not have written the run on the women. Bottom line, depending upon who you're looking at, it is definitely one of the top 3 preventable causes of death is alcohol related. Again, not even and then they even talk about like accidents. Alcohol impaired driving fatalities accounted for almost 30% of all driving fatalities. So when you consider that, and this is what somebody says, alcohol is not a benign substance, and there are many ways it can contribute to mortality. The current findings suggest that alcohol-related deaths involving injuries, overdoses, chronic diseases are increasing across a wide swath of the population. This was coming from talking about how much more women are drinking and giving in to that, the diseases that come from that. So bottom line, 100,000 people die a year. This has been the case since 1981. 100,000 die a year from alcohol related, and they believe those numbers are low because what's reported on the death certificate, might be, breast cancer, but it could have been directly related to sort of alcohol consumption. Again, I had a family member who died of a heart attack, but it's actually related to the weakening of the body due to alcohol. I mean, I have other family members that have died of other reasons, but it's alcohol, drugs and alcohol. So the Lord is asking those of us, those of you who see yourself as a leader, to consider what lies have you believed about alcohol? A few weeks ago, I posted some quotes from a book called Alcohol Lied to Me. It's a great book. It's a guy who's a full-blown alcoholic, and he doesn't like the term alcoholic, doesn't want to call himself that. Of course, refers to himself as a full-blown alcoholic, but I'm not an alcoholic, because he doesn't like that term. He didn't like the AA program. He didn't like the way the 12 Steps to Recovery worked, but yet his book is very clearly AA related. But he makes money off of his book and his programs that help people stop drinking. And so more power to him. I love it. I don't care how you make your money. And he's helping people. His book, Alcohol Lied to Me, is a really good book for those of you who don't like the term alcoholic, who don't want to go to 12 Steps AA, but who want to understand what is this toxin really doing to your body? Because that's what it is, folks. And so when you look at what the Lord says, there are vastly more statements in the word of the Lord talking about what alcohol does to the mind. And there are definite ripple effects of how the spirits, the popping of the pills, the drink, the pharmakeia, oh, and I forgot, I'm not going to do this right. Pharmakeia means spirits. And that's a Greek word. So how they alter your mind. I ask you to consider that, because where are you on that spectrum of your leadership journey? The Lord is calling us to do whatever it takes. Invest your money, time, treasure, talents into seeking truth, emet, wisdom, chokmah, instruction, musar, understanding, binah. These are things that take time and energy to learn. And so if you are getting caught up in statistics, and again, I apologize for those 25 people a year who were killed via a gun, who you were the innocent bystander that got killed by a gun. Of the 25 of you, I know there are 25 families that have been dramatically altered. But there are 100,000 families dramatically altered because of alcohol use. My family, 4 deaths. And those are the ones I know about. Those are the ones I'm aware of. So I ask you to consider, when you're on the bandwagon that the government should do something about all these mass killings, 25 people a year, as you're drinking your wine, wondering why the government isn't doing something about the 25 people that die a year, I'm going to wonder why the government isn't doing something about the 100,000 people that die a year, and those are the ones we document. And I'm going to ask you to consider that number as well. Do whatever you want. Freak out about whatever subject you want to freak out about. The data and the facts are the data and the facts. The Lord's word is the Lord's word. Truth is truth, whether you like it or not. So once again, this is the Personal Excellence Drill Sergeant yelling at you a lot today. I recognize that, because this is a subject that gets me impassioned, because I know a ton about this subject, specifically data, facts, and stats that people twist and people get way too emotional about because they don't have a belief in God's system. So they take minor details and freak out about it. And sorry, I'm not going to freak out about mass killings. I'm not. I'm going to speak to you all more about the way that you drink, because I know that has a much greater impact, a much more deleterious impact on your life and the life of people around you. So go read the book, Alcohol Lied to Me. Go read Mishlei 23, study it. Shalom.